Good afternoon. Let me remove my mask. Okay. Now you can see my beautiful white hair. So I'm going to be talking not from a vendor point of view, but from your point of view, which is going to impact all of you and me as well. So this is the topic of my presentation. I have only 10 slides, so please don't fall asleep. Okay, I'm going to talk about A, B, C, D, E, F. These are all the slides I have, and this is going to impact all of us in this room. So please pay attention. What gives me the leverage to talk about this? This is what I do in my free time. And as you can see, I have a lot of free time. Okay, let's get on to the first stuff, AI. AI is what everybody talks about. So when you look at Gartner's data, Gartner just came out 2 days ago with a prediction saying that the AI and augmented intelligence market in 2024 is going to be worth $3 trillion. 3 trillion, which means it's going to impact each one of us, whether we like it or not. It's embedded in everything we do. It's embedded in the taxi we book, in the food we order, in the videos we like to see. Everybody is looking at AI from a different perspective, from a sales perspective, the commercial side, from an analytics perspective, the government side, and from an ethics perspective is what we as consumers have to ask, and I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, let's look at big data. So big data is very easy to configure the moment we see it in, there you go, in an animation form. So at the bottom, you got the stages of computing right from the 1950s to the future. On this side, on the Y-axis, you got 1,000 gigabytes is 1 terabyte, 1,000 terabytes is 1 petabyte, 1,000 petabytes is 1 exabyte, 1,000 exabyte is 1 zettabyte, 1,000 zettabyte is 1 yottabyte. What happens after yottabyte? End of the world, because you have no more data, right? So you started off with transactions in the mainframe era, and it's still going on. And then we went on to interactions. From transactions, we went to interactions. We are interacting with YouTube. We are interacting with Facebook. We are interacting with LinkedIn. We are interacting with Grab. We are interacting with our banks. And the future is beyond interactions, M to M. The machine interacts with the machine. The bots interact with the bots. The systems interact with other systems. That's where AI comes in full form, where you have some AI which is called black boxes, where you don't know how the AI arrived at a decision. And the beauty of all of this, or the tragedy, whichever way you look at it, is that all of this big data sits on the cloud. 98% of all data that AI analyzes or considers for ML is picked from the cloud. That's where the connection is complete. Okay, look at a cloud next. As soon as this moves. Nope. There you go. Top applications on the cloud. So if you take a look at all the applications on the cloud, there is not a single application that cannot be on the cloud. There is not a single application that needs to be on premise right now. All of your data is on the cloud. All of us are users of the cloud, whether we like it or not. We have Gmail, we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we see YouTube, we do WhatsApp, everything on the cloud. So we are all cloud natives. Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're distressed, whether you're government, everything is cloud. And that brings a totally new dimension to cloud. Why? Because all of the data of all of the people and all of the machines is congregated on the cloud. So you have AI trying to analyze all of this. Some of it is in pockets. Some of it is not accessible. Some of it is hacked. Some of it is fake. Therefore, you have a whole confluence of stuff that's happening, and you're not sure what to trust. That's where trust and ethics and all of those elements which are emotionally connected come into the picture. So let's look at data. So look at this chart. You have starting from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. What has changed? Look at 2019. For the first time ever in the history of mankind, you have a major risk created by human beings, which is cyber risk or data fraud or theft. Until 2018, all of the major risks were basically nature created. There were hurricanes, there were floods, there were blizzards, there were earthquakes. Now, cybersecurity trumps all of that. Fraud trumps all of that. Donald Trump trumped all of that by giving leeway to fake news. So you see how data on the cloud could be manipulated and used by hackers. That's the reason I say ethics is the key, where you have bots on the cloud looking at what are you searching, what are you buying, which bank are you using, how much authentication does your bank have, how easy is it to hack into your account, how simple is your password, is there two-factor authentication or not. The moment as a hacker, I look at all of this, I know who to attack. And it's not even a human being at the other end, it's the bot, the machine, which says, okay, this person is vulnerable, let's attack. And that's how the whole cycle spreads. So that brings me to the key part, which is the ethics and AI. So there are two slides here, and I'm going to run through this very diligently. Number one, AI is slowly creeping up upon us. It is embedded into all apps, into how we buy our food, into how we like something on YouTube or on Facebook. And somebody is watching us, maybe not a human being, maybe a bot, maybe a machine, maybe an algorithm. And bots are using big data analytics to find out our likes, our dislikes, who our friends might be, how vulnerable are they. And I'll show you some instances where bots have done great harm in my next slides. The reason I want you to be all very scared is because COVID is not the most scary part. The internet is the most scary part. I'll show you why. Cloud is cool until it's unavailable. So that's where we discussed at the panel discussion that you must have BCDR in place, whether you're on cloud or on premise, because all of your customers are on cloud, all of your suppliers are on cloud, all of your apps are on cloud. So therefore, cloud must be available, but what happens when it's not? So is data the new oil? No, data is the new crude oil, because like crude oil, data by itself is really worthless. But when it is analyzed, like crude oil, when it is refined into petrol, into gasoline, into natural gas, into diesel, into airline fuel, its worth jumps up much higher than the original price of the crude. The same thing with data. Data by itself is probably worthless, but once it is analyzed, once it's made actionable, once somebody can say, okay, this is the person I want to target, either to sell to, or to buy from, or to attack, then it becomes viable. So let's look at some cool or not cool issues related to ethics. Number one, as long as this thing works. There you go. So Genderify was a great company that started off in July 2020. What they said was, we can identify a person's gender by just analyzing the user ID, the username, the email account, and then it was put out in the wild. And then it came, and the moment people search for professor, it says 98% probability is male, which is rubbish. I mean, there are no female professors. The same thing happened when it searched for doctors. 96% were male, which is rubbish. The same thing when it searched for nurses. 89% were registered as female. That is all rubbish. When you look at it in the real world, it's not true. In any demographic, except in extremely extremist countries, which might be the case, but in the developed world, this was totally wrong. Search for stupid showed up 62% probability for females. If I was a female, I would sue the pants off the Genderify, right? Because it is making gross errors in judgment, and it is prejudging me based on my username. So doctor female names, male skewed returns. So this was an AI algorithm that probably shouldn't have been out in the wild. Take another case, Nabla, October 2020, AI-powered chatbot design in France to reduce doctor workloads. It actually asked sick patients to go and commit suicide. It is shocking to us, but if you're sick with cancer and you type in and it says it's supposed to give you good advice, and you type in all your symptoms and you do a chat bot function with it, at some point it will say, you are right, no point living. Go take this tablet, jump from the 3rd floor. Things like that. And these are real cases. These are not imagined or false cases. You can search for them online, you'll get them. It used the latest GPT-3 AI algorithm, which is supposed to be the most intelligent algorithm. But then an algorithm is as intelligent or stupid as the data it analyzes. So this algorithm went out and analyzed all of the data and found the mortality rate for, let's say, leukemia patients was 66% based on the following 3 things. And then when the patient asked and the bot asked back saying, do you have these 3 symptoms? And the patient said, yes. It says your mortality rate is very high, so might as well end your life. You see? Okay, next. Harrisburg University, Pennsylvania, United States. Deep neural network model to predict criminality using image processing, facial recognition system. They said they could predict the criminality from a single photograph. And obviously, It couldn't. The worst thing was Harrisburg University made a big study out of this and sent to Nature magazine to be published, saying this is how the algorithm works and this is how police department should be using it. 2,000 professors in the United States wrote to Nature magazine says, do not publish this for fear of lawsuits, and all of this research is humbug. There is no ethics in the research. And the last example I have, Tindaris Investments, supposed to be an AI algorithm running on a supercomputer, was sold to a Chinese magnate. He lost 20 million US dollars a day. Even a monkey could have done better. So think about it. A normal broker would at least have a stop loss program. This AI algorithm just went on adding to his losses until it became $20 million a day. And he sued the company for $23 million. So these are some issues of ethics. So my last two slides, here's a new ethics body of knowledge, which I talked about during the panel discussion, which we started off. I was the chief editor. We have, let me see, where's my next? We have 30 authors who have contributed, 25 reviewers, 25 case studies, 22 chapters, 7 sections. It's all online, and the website address is right below. And some of the best, the best people or the contributors were Mr. S. Ishwaran, you know already. Mr. V.K. Raja is the chairman of the AI Advisory Council, Government of Singapore, which is looking into AI and data ethics. Dr. Yaacob Ibrahim, former minister. Tan Eng Chai is the president of National University of Singapore. Subra Suresh is president of NTU. Dr. Yo is a cardiologist and the chairman of the scientific body of the Asia Pacific Association of Cardiology. Dr. James Yip is the chief data analysis and the chief AI and data analytics officer, NUS, and an advisor to the Ministry of Health. Mr. Yong Zi Kin is deputy commissioner, PDPC, and Dr. Chong Yok Sin is president of SCS. So please go to this site, download all of this, get educated on the ethics of AI. And my last ever slide, which is the most important slide for you to get in touch with me. This is my email address. Feel free to email me anytime, anywhere, on any device, and I will surely respond to you within 12 hours or your money back. Thank you very much.